All right, guys. Hey, how are you guys?
What's going on, Al?
Hey,
What's
wow,
happening?
this is cool. So today we have Jeremy, Rockin'chippy, and Dan Hubp with us, and we would like to talk about Winger's new music video. It all comes back around. So I heard Dan, you did the editing of this video. So let me know how you feel about it now.
Oh, I think the video turned out great. I mean, I think the song is what drove it. It's such a impassioned, heartfelt, harking back to Miles Away kind of power ballad that the editing, I have to say, was, not necessarily easy, but it drove what the edit wanted to be with really long dissolves and using all of the flowing shots that they created with the jib and the drone that they used. So putting it together, I did just lots of layers and then just dissolved between them, which I think I cut it in less than 3 days, the first cut. So,
Oh wow.
which is, and that's not even full days. So it was fun to do because when you're working with music like that, it's an honor and a pleasure, and it's just the whole process is like, it's like creating art, but you're not even trying because it's all there for you.
It's amazing when it all lines up. I was watching that video. I mean, they had Pride Desperado, which was action-packed, and it had the screen behind it, and there was a lot going on and stuff like that. And then I think this video was completely different, where it was just the band. And when I first heard it, I saw like Kip's face and Reb and the whole band, and it just like hit me. It was just so raw. Like you could just tell everything was connecting in that video. The music was connecting, what they were doing had meaning to them. And then obviously, you layer in the song, and just that beginning with like Reb's like kind of, Kip's haunting voice and the melody that they're starting is just, it just hits you, and then you don't really know where it's going.
Yeah, it hit me so hard too. I was crying. Seriously, it was so emotional. I got so emotional. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, the song just has just an incredible ebb and flow to it, and just the visual aspect of it. It just adds so much. It's just like I'll say, it just hits you right in the feels. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, it has all of these, things that harken back to their like original albums and, some of their early material. And you can really see like, and kind of live through the growth with them. It kind of just makes you kind of think back all of their old albums, old tours. And you can kind of see how they've grown as people and musicians. It's weird. We've listened to this music for so long. Some of us have grown up with it, and it's really neat to kind of see your heroes kind of, on that upward trajectory and kind of like where they are, and kind of like the pinnacle of, their talent. And it's just also awesome to see them all back together again, like the whole band.
Yeah.
That was really striking, because normally, on these albums, it's either, John Roth or Paul Taylor. It was just awesome that they, came together and had everybody.
I think the reason it's so powerful is, to your point, like I've been a hardcore Winger fan, and we know that the band has had challenges with Chin and the Beavis and the Butthead stuff, and Kip has tried really hard to reestablish the band as a serious band, and we know that because Winger 4 came and it was really serious, and he continued. It was very important that the songs were really deep, the lyrics were good, the music was challenging and progressive, and he's really changed the entire perception of the band. And then when you're watching this culmination of all they've been through, and you see the expressions on their face, and you hear the how genuine that the emotions are, and then one of the things I was thinking about is that this song is simple from a music standpoint, meaning it's just chugging a couple chords. I mean, I was learning the chords, and there's something about really, really good musicians holding back because they know that it's going to connect if they can throttle it back. So they kept the chords, simple, but then they delivered in kind of Reb's moments. When Reb comes in with that initial middle solo and the chords are shifting underneath his fingers and he is literally hitting the perfect note possible. It was his Gilmore moment. I mean, I don't know that people think, oh, Reb Beach, David Gilmour, but Reb is kind of like, for me, like Sambora and others, where they hit the right notes. It's just, he always says he has a great ear. It's true, and it's the feeling that came through.
Yeah. It's the feeling.
So it's like, I'm listening to this and I'm just like, when I hear a new song and I have to learn the lead, despite my own limitations as a musician, that I'm so motivated, it means it really hit me, right? So like that hit me. And then Dio, when you're like, we gotta learn that outro. Yeah. And I was like, and I'm just like, I didn't really think about how good that outro was until I was like sitting there kind of working on it because it's a subtle build. When you have to solo for like, who knows? I don't know how long that outro solo is, 2 minutes. I don't know how long that thing is. It's kind of like Sambora in Dry County. Like you have to figure out where you're starting and where you're going to end up. And it is hard to make all of that really, really good. So you have it like starting up in the lower frets, moving its way down. Actually, very Gilmore's, because Gilmour would do a lot of that. He would start and he would kind of jump back and forth. And then the bends, right? Like very bluesy, emotional bends. And then the pentatonic run.
Oh, yeah.
Run, ending with the high, honestly, we had Witness, we've had Heartbreak, we've had all these moments where Reb has been given the ability to kind of do what he wants. Something about this was just, and it's the emotions, man. When you're playing connects with the song and it comes out,
So
it's funny you mentioned the like the throttling, like they know when to dial it back because it's not all about at this point in their career like showing off or flair or whatever. I mean, it's like they're putting their heart and soul into the music, and it's like it has a meaning and a message, and it's like it's just a totally a grown up Winger compared to what their original goal was back when they first launched. But like they've almost like mastered the art of, and I don't know if this is like a new term we're gonna have to coin, but like emotional dynamics like in their writing and the way they arrange their music to where it's like they kind of hook you just like at the beginning with like Kip's haunting singing and the piano and all that, and then they slowly lull you in and then they just hit you with this.
I'm reading Bono has a autobiography out. He's been very reflective, and I was just reading like chapter, and he said something that kind of made me think when you were telling this, right? He says something about like if you can't convince yourself, you can't convince someone else, or if you can't get an emotion out of your right, and it's like it was on he's doing a lot of these kind of podcasts or interviews on the internet. I've been like cycling through them and stuff, and he was asked a really good question, which was like, what's your approach to cutting through the fact that there's so much competition out there and so much music for people? And he said, you have to deliver something emotional that connects, because if you you can connect with people through the emotion, you've got them. Like they'll stick with you in your song. And this song was like, that's it. I mean, it just hit every button. But it wasn't derivative. I don't think it, because we can say, oh, it was intentional and stuff like that. Obviously, it's intentional to write a powerful song. But I think I wasn't like, oh, I'm listening to the same song that they've released before. Obviously, there's aspects of Kip's kind of solo stuff that some of the more somber stuff and brought it back into it. but it's the dynamics, how it starts out really gentle.
Yeah.
What is about to happen?
Yeah.
And then it's ding, and then it just rips into the chorus. And then once again, I think the beauty of Winger and the difference between a Kip solo album and a Winger album, and Kip talks about it all the time, is the relationship between, it's like every Winger album's the same. Sit there with Reb, he makes a riff and I write a song. They're like this Tyler Joe Perry thing. Like, it's just like, there is magic when those two people play music together. And without Reb's musicianship and the way he can coax the emotion out of that chord progression, I just don't think it would be the same, which is why we love the band so much, right? It's a combination of both of those things. So yeah, I'm blown away by it. And I think the video delivered because it was just the band, performing, and what I love about it too, as a guitarist, is that we know a lot of guitarists forget like what they played on the album, and they're just whatever in the shot. And I'm like listening to the album, I'm trying to figure out the solo, and I'm listening to it note by note, and I'm like, yeah, he's literally that solo. I don't know how, because he, you watch the making of Winger 4 and all that stuff, and he's just take after take after take until he gets the right one. He's off the cuff type player, but you can tell he knew this solo melodically, he remembered it note for note, which he may have worked on a little bit longer than other solos. So I was seeing his hands and he was playing a note for note, and I was like, great, now I know where he's playing. Now I know what he's doing. But
he did like 5 takes of that, doing the same thing over and over again, which is pretty spectacular given the length of it and the complexity of that he was playing. So it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that pentatonic bit, I mean, it's a performance. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, meaning when he's when he's recording that, he can't mess that up. You know what I'm saying? That's either happening or it's not happening. And that pentatonic run was so cool. Yeah. But then he just goes into the tapping and it just gushes out of him. Like, he just taps. It's just so fluid. It's perfect. And then he knows where to go back. Like, he knows where to find home. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it seems like so straightforward. Like, oh yeah, that's the part where I'm just going to fluidly tap all over the place and then perfectly land exactly where I meant to go. And have it all kind of come back around. Oh, wow, I just said it. It all comes back around. No, but it really did all come back around at the end because he hit, he went back up the register. So, so good. I mean,
I think that's the power of the song itself, because it's all about, coming back around. They're coming back around. It has this kind of dreamy quality to it, and the power of just being about the band. I mean, there was no discussion about ever doing, any B-roll on this, any kind of storytelling or any other kind of shots that were outside of the band of trying to, bring something else to it. It was always just going to be about the band. I think that's another really powerful thing about it, is it's driven by their performances at location in the sun, but it's totally their performances, and that's for almost 8 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And you're not waiting for the pretty girls or whatever else could be injected into something like that. So that's why another reason why I think it's so powerful.
Yeah,
no glitz necessary. They carried the whole thing. It's just
every member looks so cool in this video. Seriously.
Yeah, there was I said this again, but I'll say it one more time. There was this somberness and seriousness about it, where I don't know, man. You just read it on everyone's face, and it didn't feel like acting. Like, it really felt like this was a moving song. This represented what the band is, and and what's cool about the new albums, and I know Kip has said, I want to go back, I want to re-record these things, to remaster them, and maybe he wanted to get rid of some of the samples, and maybe some of the glitz of those albums. I think the modern albums, right? This was the modern Winger. This was the serious Winger that maybe he thought he was getting across in those early albums, but maybe with the production it was taking a little bit of that seriousness away. And we know Kip always talks about, his accomplishments as a composer. And he was talking. I don't remember what podcast was, because I got to give credit to whatever the podcast was. A couple of them, but he was talking about how he's much better at crafting songs now. Like he kind of knows where they're going to go. He has a command over it that he didn't. He would still get there when he was younger. But he would wrestle a little bit more with it. And now there's this mastery, and I think what's great about this song is that you can see that mastery happen. You know what they can do, but the fact that they're not doing it is even more powerful. Like even I was trying to learn the song, and it was, very simple. You couldn't even hear the guitar. There was a little chimey little guitar. It was probably in there, but it was kind of low in the mix. And like you have like Reb Beach, John Roth, you have these Paul Taylor, these amazing musicians, and they're making a conscious decision not to overplay that moment. They were making a conscious decision to let Kip's vocal come through for the eventual culmination. And in the outro, when Reb's just going on and on, which is phenomenal. There's the keyboard, there's the layers of musicianship is gushing behind Reb as he's kind of doing what he's doing, which is why I think, like, you guys have soloed over backing tracks, right? Like when the backing track, when the song moves you, right? When that melody, when it hits you, it comes out, right? Like, we know Reb's an amazing musician. As I said, Witness was like the last time on Karma, when they did, was Witness on Karma? Witness had a really good like tapping outro, like the same kind of emotional thing. And I always thought that was Reb kind of just really gushing there. This one I think was better. I think this is like, really a good way to go. If you're I'm not saying this is the last Winger album, but if this was the last Winger album, and that was the last song, and that was the last solo, that would be like, yes, that's Reb. So cool. And I'm really excited to see what else is on this album. I'm hoping it's not the last Winger album, but if it is, that's a good way to go out.
Well, seems like there's gonna be like 4 more music videos that they're gonna be producing, right Dan?
Something like that. I mean, I've heard all the tracks. It could be, it's a combination of everything that they've done, all put together in one record. So there's stuff coming that is gonna, really hard rock stuff, more ballads. So it's going to be the complete, Winger experience in a way that I think like brings it all back together. So I'm really excited for them, because I think it's, they've been through a lot of stuff, and they seem to be getting a lot of recognition now on a level that, that they've kind of missed out on. So I think it's really, really cool for them.
Jeremy, you've been so quiet. I want to hear what you think.
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. So I've been waiting for this album to come out, ever since they were talking about it, like pre-pandemic and all that stuff. Just waiting and thinking it's getting pushed back. Oh, it's just going to go on the back burner. They're just going to forget about it, never finish it, never release it. And the first glimmer of hope, right, was whenever Reb released his solo album. Amidst all that going on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this, I can't believe this is happening. Maybe there's hope for, the next album that they've been talking about and kind of, just kept in the background for years. So, I mean, I'm still kind of in disbelief that it came to fruition and they actually released it. Because I know initially, in some of the interviews where they were talking to the guys, they'd written a bunch of material for it, but it sounded like they weren't happy with it. So they kind of axed everything and started over, right? So, I'd be kind of curious to hear some of that stuff too, maybe on like, another anthology album someday of like cut tracks and stuff. But yeah, obviously whatever thought process they had for this album, it's kicking butt so far. So, whatever rewrites they did or whatever, maybe they had to get the right headspace or the right, emotional context for it. But I mean, I think that we hit a home run with this, so I'm just ecstatic. Like, I cannot wait to get my pre-order copy.
Guys, since Dan is here, I want to ask Dan, what's your favorite part of this video? You've got it.
Oh, well, Reb solo.
Reb solo.
Yeah, it was a little tricky because, you know, the idea was to really focus on him. I wanted to get some of Rod's stuff in when it crashes in at the right time. And then it was, you know, how much do you concentrate on the fingerboard and how much do you actually get his, because it used to be about him and not just, you know, his fingers. So, you know, and then going through all the different takes and what was available, that was the challenge, is to come up with something that, you know, honestly portrayed what he was playing without it becoming, you know, too much of one thing or not enough of another, or, you know, trying to find that happy medium. So
Dan, I mean, how you edit it was like, for me, like as a guitarist, I mean, like, you know what we want. It was like perfect. You know, Reb looks so cool, so dramatic, and like, you know, and this is time that we want to see the close-up what he's doing, and you just did it right, you know. And
well, thank you.
And whenever he used the arm vibrato and the arm, you know, harmonics thing, it was just,
yeah, when he does the
like cue like that, and his arm is like, you know, going like, that's like so rad and so cool, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Well,
I
when
really
he changes the
appreciate that.
pattern, right? When he's in that pattern, and then he changes it right.
He
in front of you,
changes
he's
it.
on it. That's
Yeah.
that is so powerful. You know, none of that stuff is faked.
It's like a guitar lesson, because, you know, it's not for show. Like when he does that,
Right.
you know, that's what he does. That's how he plays. You can even see that he held the strings here to make sure the things didn't ring out. You don't have to do that in a music video.
No.
You know what I'm talking about? But it was the exact technique that he would actually use if he was playing it in the studio. And I thought that was so cool, because you can see how he bends, where his vibrato is. Like, you know, I'm always trying to get better. I mean, and vibrato's always been, you know, I didn't really even understand what that was until I had those lessons with Till Hoekstra. But seeing Reb do it, like how he bends, where he goes, how he does it, oh man, that was just like, I just like loved that. I was like so in all that. It was great.
I mean, I can't tell you like how much I appreciate that too as a guitar player. It's just like, over all the years that I've seen music videos that are shot and like edited together by obviously someone who like maybe is not maybe per se disinterested in the music, but they're not a musician, or they're not like, they don't really know the songs. They're just kind of like trying to put together a flashy video.
Yeah.
And it's like, Alex is right, they'll always pan away from the guitarist, like right at the solo.
Exactly.
Like, all you see is like a, you know, a flip of their big hair, you know, and their face going like, you know, but you never actually see the guitar, what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like for like an important drum fill, bass riff or whatever it may be, I mean, you need to focus and appreciate that musicianship. And I think that was so masterfully done in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to ask Dan about, again, back to the video, but what was the hardest part of editing it all comes back around?
Bringing it down to what it is now, from what I had originally created with so many layers and so many kind of dream imagery of it, is getting it down to something simpler. So that, and it's always easier to cut down than to try and create something that's more complicated.
Yeah.
So because I started so complicated, it was, I can't say easier, but it was, you know, that was the process, was to pare it down to something, you know, simple and really digestible.
Were there so many guides or, you know, Kip's request?
Yeah, he was just say stay on the shots longer. That was his general request. It was like, it's too cut. He was like, the dissolves are happening too fast. I want to see stuff that, you know, let the shots hang out. One of the problems was that a lot of the shots, didn't, because they used a jib and a drone, and the drone would get off track, or it would speed up, or it would be panning nice, and suddenly it'd be like, or the jib would move off into a different direction. So that was the hardest part, was finding shots that actually had some length in it.
That's nice.
Well, it came out amazing.
Yeah,
Really.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you did a wonderful job.
It's
The
incredible.
way you drew it out. That's.
I'm honored. Thank you.
My God.
All right, guys, I got to jump, but it is
That
just
was
been
fun.
talking to you guys and chatting, and
Yep. But thank you very much for joining me.
sorry.
Yeah. it's always fun to talk to you guys about this. I want to do it, more.
Definitely. Well, when I figure out the rest of the solo, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work on my side too.
All right,
But-
sounds good, guys. Have a
yeah.
Great night.
All right.
It's always
Thanks,
a pleasure,
guys.
fellas.
Bye, guys.